Chapter 1: The Bargain. The elevator climbed with glacial indifference, its sleek steel interior too cold, too polished, too much like the man she was about to face. Sasha Ward's reflection in the mirrored walls looked better than she felt. She had done her best. Dark blazer pressed, lipstick fresh, her wild curls pinned back like she had something to prove. But her eyes gave her away. Hunger, humiliation, and beneath it all a flicker of defiance that hadn't quite died, no matter how hard life had tried to smother it. Ding! Top floor, Cross Industries. She stepped out onto a carpet so plush it swallowed the click of her heels. The receptionist, flawless, expressionless, barely glanced up. "He's expecting you." Of course he was. He always was. The walk to his office felt longer than it should have. Maybe because every step dragged through 5 years of silence. 5 years since she'd vanished from the headlines. 5 years since she'd nearly lit a match to Damien Cross's empire, and then, without warning, let the flame die. She hadn't spoken to him since. Hadn't dared. Now here she was. Broke, cornered, and holding nothing but her pride in one hand and a cracked phone in the other. She didn't want to be here. But want had very little to do with it anymore. The double doors loomed. She knocked once. Sharp, controlled. "Come in." His voice, deep, composed, unmistakably him. She entered. Damien Cross sat behind a desk that looked more like a monument than furniture. Glass, steel, and power incarnate. He didn't rise, didn't smile. Just watched her from behind those infamously cold obsidian eyes. The years had sharpened him. His tailored suit was charcoal, his hair darker, more precise. The only softness in the room was the silence between them. "Miss Ward." He said it like a curse disguised as courtesy. "Mr. Cross." She stood straight, forcing herself not to fidget under his gaze. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction. He gestured to the chair across from him, lazy, imperious. "Have a seat. Let's hear your pitch." She sat, her palms pressed to her knees under the table, hidden from view. "I'm not here to pitch. I'm here for a job." That amused him. A flicker of it crossed his face, a smirk gone as quickly as it came. "Ah, so the prodigal journalist returns. How's exile treating you?" She didn't flinch. "Could be worse." "Could it?" he asked mildly, reaching for a decanter of water. He poured only for himself. "You disappeared. Rumors were wild. Some said I paid you off, others that I threatened your family, but the truth was much duller, wasn't it? You just vanished." Her throat burned. "I walked away. That's all." "You were going to bury me," he said flatly. "And then you didn't. That's not all, Sasha. That's a story with a missing ending." She didn't answer. He didn't push. Instead, he sipped his water. "So, you want to work for me now? That's bold." "It's necessary. Even bolder." Sasha forced herself to meet his gaze. "You have a media division. You're expanding it. I have skills. You had ethics once, and you had a conscience, allegedly. That did it." His jaw tightened just a little, but he leaned back, hands steepled. "And what would I get, Miss Ward? Hiring you isn't just bad optics. It's suicidal. You're the woman who nearly exposed my entire operation." She hesitated. "I didn't expose it." "No," he said softly. "You didn't. But not out of mercy, I think. So tell me, Sasha, why did you really walk away?" A long silence. She couldn't tell him. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. Because I realized I didn't know the whole story," she said. "I don't publish half-truths." He studied her, then stood slowly, walking around the desk until he stood in front of her. Too close. She smelled his cologne, clean, sharp, expensive. Her heartbeat ticked faster against her will. "You want a job?" he said quietly. "You'll have it. You'll start tomorrow. You'll report directly to me." She blinked. "I thought you said hiring me would be suicidal." His smile was all teeth. "It will be, but I've always had a taste for risk." Her breath hitched. "And to be clear," he added, voice like ice, "this isn't forgiveness. This is curiosity. I want to see how far you'll fall for the man you once tried to ruin." Her stomach twisted. Not because of the words, but because some part of her, the part she hated most, wasn't sure what he meant by fall. Sasha stood, her dignity frayed, but still intact. "I'll take the job," he nodded once. "Good. Welcome to hell." She turned and left without another word, but as the doors closed behind her, she felt it, the heat of his gaze burning into her spine. Not forgiveness, not even revenge. Something more dangerous, something far harder to escape. Chapter 2: The Test. By day 3, Sasha had stopped counting the hours. The work came in waves, relentless, calculated, cruel. Reports revised at midnight. Presentations restructured just before delivery. Meetings stacked so tightly she had to skip meals, bathroom breaks, even the occasional breath. It was war in a tailored suit, and Damien Cross was the general. He never raised his voice, never barked orders, just assigned impossible tasks with a clipped smile and an unreadable expression, as if daring her to break. She didn't, not even when he moved the goalposts, not even when she found out the urgent investor brief due at 7 a.m. was never going to be read. She met every challenge with quiet precision, eyes dry, back straight, heels sharp. If he wanted to grind her into dust, she'd make him work for it. Monday, 11:43 p.m. Sasha sat alone in the 27th floor conference room, the skyline bleeding in through the floor-to-ceiling glass. Her laptop glowed, her notes were spread out like battle plans. She rubbed her temples, her thoughts buzzing like static. The door opened behind her. She didn't look up. If this is about the Peterson file, it's already uploaded. No, this is about your coffee addiction. Damien's voice was low, almost amused. He crossed the room and set down a cup in front of her. She blinked. Are you trying to poison me? Tempting, he said, but HR frowns on it. She gave him a dry look, but took the cup. It was from her favorite hole-in-the-wall cafe 2 blocks down. She hadn't even told anyone she liked it. Thanks, she muttered. He settled into the chair across from her, uninvited, his jacket unbuttoned, shirt sleeves rolled up to the forearms. Casual. Dangerous. She sipped. Silence settled. Most people would have quit by now, he said. Most people aren't desperate. He studied her. That's not desperation, that's grit. She said nothing. You've changed, he added, not unkindly. You used to lead with fire. Now you lead with silence. I've had time to learn the value of restraint. Pity. The fire was interesting. She gave a bitter smile. And the silence makes me less of a threat? He didn't answer. 5 years earlier. She remembered the rooftop bar, the way the wind had tangled her hair, the way Damien had watched her, not like a man watching a woman, but like a chess player studying an unpredictable move. He had challenged her ethics over whiskey, flirted with her in Latin, and dared her to see the real man behind the mask. She never quite had. But she had gotten close. Too close. Until the story. Until the moment she realized the man she was falling for was sitting at the center of something rotten, and she had to choose between truth and the possibility of him. Why did you really pull the story? He asked suddenly. Sasha blinked, jarred by the shift in tone. She set the coffee down. You think I'm going to hand you the answer now, after all this time? I think, he said carefully, that whatever you discovered back then, it didn't fit your narrative, and it scared you. She looked at him, really looked. There were lines at the corners of his eyes that hadn't been there before, a tightness around his mouth, like he hadn't smiled in a while without consequence. You're not wrong, she said softly. It did scare me, but not for the reasons you think. His brow furrowed, but before he could speak, her phone buzzed. She grabbed it instinctively, read the screen, and froze. Damien noticed. Something wrong? She cleared her throat. It's nothing. But her hand trembled slightly as she put the phone down. He didn't press, but the air between them shifted. Curiosity gave way to something softer, almost concern. He leaned forward, arms on the table. You don't have to keep proving yourself, he said quietly. I already know you're capable. She blinked. Is that a compliment? It's an observation. A pause. And maybe a compliment. Sasha looked down at her coffee. Careful, Cross. You're getting dangerously close to human. He gave a short laugh. Don't tell anyone. They sat like that for a beat longer than necessary. 2 people balanced on the edge of something they couldn't name. The city below pulsed like a heartbeat. She thought, maybe. But then he stood. I'll have another project for you in the morning, he said, voice clipped again, back to business. Don't be late. Just like that, the warmth vanished. The door clicked shut behind him. Sasha sat there, heart thudding, jaw tight. Of course he retreated. That's what men like Damien did. They gave you a taste of something real and then reminded you who held the power. She looked down at her coffee, still warm, still hers. She'd keep showing up, keep fighting, but she wouldn't forget, not this time. Damien Cross might sign her paychecks, but she wasn't his, not anymore. Chapter 3. The Reason Why. Damien Cross didn't believe in accidents. Information always had a way of finding him, leaked in whispers, buried in emails, tucked in the margins of reports that others overlooked. That's why, when an internal audit of archived media flagged Sasha Ward's name connected to a forgotten server, he paid attention. Encrypted files, untitled folders, one in particular, cross-report final draft .docs. He opened it. It was the story. Her original investigation, the one that had vanished, the one that had haunted him, meticulously documented, full of damning details. Financial irregularities, shell corporations, off-the-record interviews. But what stopped him wasn't what she wrote. It was what she didn't. A section was missing. A blank space where a final paragraph should have gone. The document's history showed it had been deleted the same day the story was due to publish. And there, in the revision log, was a line he hadn't seen before. A single note she'd typed and never saved. It's not him. It was Richard. Damien stared at the name for a long time. Richard Hale, his late father's business partner. A man who had practically raised him. Trusted, beloved. Dead now, 3 years gone. Damien had honored him, mourned him, and all this time, his pulse roared in his ears. That evening, Damien waited. The office was quiet. Shadows stretched long across the glass. Sasha was in the conference room again, scribbling edits on a product launch brief like the world would end if she missed a comma. He stepped in without warning. "Tell me why." She looked up startled. "Why what?" He tossed a printed copy of the report on the table. "Why didn't you publish this?" Her face drained of color. "How did you?" "I never forget a betrayal, Sasha, but this..." He tapped the page. This wasn't betrayal. This was omission. She stared at him, and for the first time since coming back into his orbit, she looked tired. Not physically, emotionally, like she'd been holding something heavy for too long and her arms were finally giving out. She sank into the chair. "I found out the truth 2 nights before the story was due," she said. "It wasn't you. The offshore accounts traced back to Richard Hale. He'd forged your signatures, used your name as cover. You were the public face, the shield. The shield." He said nothing, motionless. I confronted him. He laughed. Told me publishing it would still bury you, that no one would read past your name in the headlines. You'd go down with him. "So you pulled it," Damien said, voice low, "to protect me." "I pulled it to protect the truth," she said, eyes sharp. "But yes, I couldn't destroy you just to win a byline. I didn't have proof of your innocence, just enough suspicion, enough doubt. So I walked away. I lost everything." The weight of her words crashed into the room. Damien felt it all at once. Anger, shame, confusion. He'd spent years believing she'd betrayed him out of ambition or fear. Never once had he considered she had done it for him. "I trusted Richard," he said quietly. "He was family." A long silence stretched between them. Then, softer, she added, "I wanted to tell you, so many times, but by the time I could, it didn't matter anymore. The damage was done. You hated me." He didn't deny it, didn't confirm it either. He stepped closer, slowly, his expression unreadable. "All these years, I thought you were the one who broke me." Her voice barely a whisper. "I broke myself." Something in him cracked. Damien's hand moved before thought caught up. He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, fingers lingering just a second too long. And then he kissed her. There was no hesitation, no warning, just heat and gravity, like 2 storms colliding. His hand cupped her cheek. Her fingers curled into his shirt. It was slow at first, then aching, then all-consuming. The kind of kiss that burned through years of resentment and buried truths. For a second, she let herself fall into it. For a second, she forgot everything. And then she pulled back, breathless, shaken. "No," she said, stepping away. "I can't. I won't be your weakness." Damien's eyes darkened, something wounded flickering there. "I never asked you to be." "I'm not doing this," Sasha said, her voice steadier now. "Not again. You think you're still testing me, but I'm not yours to test." He reached for her wrist, but she was already gone, halfway out the door before he could stop her. Damien stood in the silence she left behind, lips tingling, heart pounding in a way that felt uncomfortably close to regret. He'd misjudged her once. He wouldn't do it again. End of part 1. She tried to protect him. It cost her everything. Now, the truth is out, but the consequences are just beginning. This was part 1 of Cold Steel Heart, a story of betrayal, redemption, and the kind of love forged in fire. Make sure to subscribe or follow so you don't miss part 2, where trust will be tested, secrets will resurface, and love will be put on the line. The burn was slow, The fall, that's where it really begins.